It's only my opinion. Coffee milk.
So guys, this week, I think it's a nice week to talk about this. Because it's something that it's in my mind all the time. I'm constantly thinking about this. We're going to talk today about sort of happiness and how to maintain or acquire it. And it's literally, I think, every day I wake up and I think about that. I think about how do I consistently stay happy, and what I need in my life specifically to make me happy. And those are just very hard questions. I don't know about you guys, if those are things that you think about, or you generally are a happy person. Jake?
Yeah, you gotta point somebody because I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know. My bad.
I'm like,
My bad.
talking at the
My
same time.
bad.
I know. I mean, yeah, I think the reason you have to point one of us out is because I think probably all of us and probably everyone watching this show struggles with maintaining happiness, especially in times like right now. I lost my job at the beginning of the epidemic. I think a lot of people are in that, boat. And yeah, when unpredictable things happen, when we don't, when things go beneath their expectations, when we expect things to go one way and they don't, for no reason, it's always been a struggle for me to maintain my happiness, especially when there's external things going on that are negative in my life. Yeah, and it's difficult. I don't know what Bianca has to say about it.
Bianca, what do you do?
What were you gonna say?
No, I wanted you to continue. I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I feel like in general I'm a happy person. I'm a optimist. I'm a glass half full type of gal, which has just been helpful in my life. With just I always have this belief that things will get better. I don't really have and it's crazy because I don't understand people who don't feel that way, but I get that people don't. I just can't relate. I'm like, yeah, of course things will get better. Like, why would they not? So I'm just waiting. But with the Rona and everything that's going on, it's starting to really get me down because it feels like at this point should have ended. Like when the Rona first came through, it was like feeling like, all right, we're all gonna hunker down for 2 weeks, and then it's gonna be over. And then it was like, all right, it didn't end in 2 weeks, but surely, in a couple months, people will get the message and, stop spreading it or whatever. And now it just feels like, how is this ever going to end? And, a vaccine is scary. I don't know, whatever. When that comes out, will people take it? I don't know. So anyways, that's been kind of getting me down. But in general, I'm a happy person. And being a mom is really helpful. I happen to have a happy baby and the world's most adorable baby. And when there's a human or even my dog, like when there's someone who just loves you, when I walk in the door, like the kid smiles, like it's just, there's nothing better than that. It's just like, all right, everything is okay,
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I would agree with you. Like, I think naturally I am a happy person. Like, I want to see the positive side of things. But I think the world has transformed me into not the most happiest person in the world. Like, it's my nature, like, because it's my nature to always be joyful. But I guess the things that I've dealt with in life and sort of how I feel like life is right now, it's it doesn't allow me to be my full joyous self that I want to be. And I kind of get mad at that sometimes. I kind of get mad at myself for not being who I know I am. But it's just it's very hard, man. It's very hard. What do you like, Jake, for instance? Like, what do you do during times when, like, you are not feeling so well, when the world is getting to you? Like, what do you do to maintain specifically?
Well, I think you brought up a really good point about about how kind of when our personal mythos doesn't match up with our personal reality. So in other words, when like how we see where we saw ourselves at this point or whatever, like our expectations for ourselves are not matching up with reality. That's been a big source of unhappiness in my life. And like when it comes to just like really crushing depression that like is dangerous, like the only time I've ever experienced that kind of stuff is when I felt like that. Just felt like I wasn't living up to my potential, like I was a failure, stuff like that. And I do two things consistently. I exercise a lot. I'm very obsessive with exercising, and that always has a positive effect on my mood. And if I'm busy with something else and I don't work out for a few days, I feel myself getting a little more depressed. You know, it has like a physiological response. And also, I've started doing mental exercises. I'm a really big fan of history. And I'm also a really big fan of kind of thinking about what my biological ancestors were doing. And when you look back at history, just so many of our ancestors, the people who made us who we are, whose blood are in our veins, had such enormously difficult lives. And I just try and put that in perspective and just be like, you know, if my hunter-gatherer ancestors or like my dirt farmer peasant ancestors saw the way my life was, saw what like I ate for breakfast every morning, and then heard I was depressed, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You know, you're living in paradise. So yeah, working out and trying to put things in perspective.
But isn't everything sort of relative? Like, I get what you're saying when it comes to that, but they don't have to deal with a lot of the people from the past, don't have to deal with a lot of the crap that we have to deal with in the future. So is in the present, I mean. So I think as much as we think that we live this cushy existence, I don't think we do. I think we have way more things to worry about than they would have to worry about. So I think it's okay that we are sad and we're unhappy with life.
Yeah,
I don't see anything necessarily wrong with that.
I'm never going to tell anyone they can't be unhappy or they can't be sad, but I think that's not true. I think we do have it much easier than almost, no matter who.
Well, in what way?
I mean, just like people were constantly worried about starvation. Like until the 1900s, you could
still do that.
Children that most of your children were like at least half of your children were going to die of disease before they turned 5. Like you've grown up, your siblings die that way. There's just numerous things that have made our lives much easier.
So the starvation thing, we still are, that's not something that we have found an elixir to. People are still starving on a daily basis. Kids, people that live in your community, who live blocks away from you, are still starving. So I think we have to deal with everything that they had to deal with. They had to deal with war and murder. We still deal with that. They have to deal with all, I don't see that. I don't feel like that we're living such a cushy ass life. And it could be perspective, right? Because even though you and we might be living in the same town, in the same state, we are living 2 different kinds of lives. So I don't know.
Of course, but I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. But when it comes to starvation, malnutrition, crime, violence, all of these things, really, no matter what social problem we're talking about, racism, classism, things like this, they're all still problems now, and that's true. And I shouldn't have marginalized that. But by any count, they've gotten better over the past 100 years. And that's also, that's not just in terms objectively, that's also the differences between us. I mean, as bad as they are right now and as pissed off as people are about it right now, of course, it was much worse like 150 years ago. And I think that's across the board. Infant mortality, everything bad about life, I think was worse. But it's neither here nor there. People are still depressed. It's part of the human condition. And there's some evidence, at least in my life, when I was living in the Middle East and people were trying to kill me all the time, I wasn't depressed. I was in the moment. I was focused on that. It was when I came home and didn't have those pressures when I really started feeling bad. So,
that's interesting.
I think
sorry.
Go ahead,
I was going to say, I think about people like Robin Williams, who, you know, to us had it all. You know, he was famous. He was hilarious. He brought joy to us. Why would he not be joyful? Why would he not, you know, people just adored him, seemingly, I guess. I guess I don't know about on a personal level if his family had issues, but he killed himself. And I always think about things like that, like, God, like, it is so relative, like you said, and just like happiness is such an odd thing. Like, he technically had everything going for him. Why was he so dark in his brain that he felt like he was no good to this earth anymore, you know? Like, I actually, this is such a good topic because I really do think about that. Like, because I really do not relate to that. Like, I have never, and this is a privilege, you know, I've never once thought, oh, I don't belong on this earth. Let me kill myself. I'd be better. People would be better off without me, or, you know, or I'm hurting so badly that, like, I just want to die. Like, of course, I felt very severe pain and things like that, but never to the point where I was like, oh, like, I should just, you know, die. It's so odd that people get to that place. I truly don't understand it. So if any of you have some insight, I would love to hear it.
I think the lack of support a lot of the times will bring someone to that. I guess I can talk personally. I'm the type of person that I'm the opposite of you when it comes to that. I've dealt with depression for a very long time, and there's tons of time that I've thought that I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be a part of this whole existence. I don't want to be a part of this. I just don't want to. It doesn't make sense for me to be here. I have nothing here. I have nothing to give. So I think it's about your worth and how you feel about yourself and how people make you feel about you. If you have a connection, if you feel like you have love, if you feel like you have a family, I feel like it's much harder. And I'm not saying that people who do have that don't. I'm just saying it's much harder to get to the state of wanting to end your life. In the case of Robin Williams, when it comes to, like, with a person that seemingly has everything, I don't know if that's necessarily true, because financial worth doesn't mean you have everything, right?
No, I didn't think that. It just seemed like he had support too. It seemed like he had, I think he had like a family. I really don't know much about his personal life. I'm just assuming here because I think he has kids or a kid or something, and like, I don't know. Like, I would have to look into it, but I thought that he had a family, and you know, he certainly had the support.
I think it probably has to do with his self-worth, and if he feels like because if you think about it, like someone like a Robin Williams who got to an apex, right? He got to like the top of the mountain fame-wise, and then you start to sort of go down that mountain, right? And everything, and so maybe if you put all your self-worth in your artistry and being an actor and being a celebrated actor, and you see slowly that star's dwindling, whatever self-worth you had built up starts to dwindle also. I think I'm not saying, I don't know this, I'm just saying if you put all your stake into this one thing, into this one passion. I'm not saying that's the case of Robin Williams. I'm just assuming maybe that might be a reason. Even someone like Anthony Bourdain,
hit me hard.
The chef. What'd you say? Repeat that. I'm sorry.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain hit me really hard when he died because I never saw that coming, and he was sort of like someone I looked up to, maybe more than Robin Williams, and yeah, it was shocking.
Yeah. So I think depression is irrational, to be honest. You know. I think we all have different levels of triggers, like the certain things that trigger us into, like, what triggers me might not be the thing that triggers you to the point of what, you know, we all have these different little fucking levers that if you touch, we will fucking explode. Sorry, I keep swearing. So it's just, I think the pursuit of happiness is one of the hardest things we do as humans. The thing, for me anyways, it's been the hardest part of my human journey. When I was younger, it was more abundant. There were more things to spark that joy. It was easier to be happy, to be content. And as you get older, as I've gotten older, it just gets more complicated. There's more things that you need. There are actual people that you need to feel sort of complete. So happiness, I feel like, is the pursuit of it is the hardest, and I'm always, I guess, jealous of people who get it, because I want to be there. I want to be to that level of happiness. But like, how do you maintain? I don't know if I asked this question already, but sort of how does one maintain that? And I know in life there's ups and downs. There's times you're going to be happy, and there's times you're going to be. But how do you keep it on an even keel so you don't dip too low and you don't sort of like? Is it possible to do that, Bianca?
I think some things are out of our hands, obviously. Like, you know, let's say a death of a loved one or something. Like, there's nothing that I'm going to do to, like, keep myself together, really. But I think, you know, things like Jake, I think keep taking care of yourself physically is super important. And I need to work on that. But I think, yeah, and just when times are getting bad, keeping some sort of normal routine, even when things don't feel right, just continuing to do the stuff that you normally do probably would be helpful. I don't know. It's so hard because, I mean, things just fizzle out. I was thinking the other day, like, I had a birthday recently. And, like, you know, when you're a kid, you get excited for your birthday. Oh, my God, I'm going to have a birthday party. Oh, my God, my friends are going to come over. There's going to be balloons. There's going to be cake. Holy shit. And, like, Christmas. Oh, my God, so excited. Whatever. And, like, I feel like year after year, and it's not because I'm getting old. Like, I'm not a person who's like, oh, my God, I'm 30 and freaking out. Like, I don't care. But it just feels like holidays and things like that get less and less exciting. And you hit a point because you're like, oh, like, when you're a kid, there's so much to be excited about. Like, and so I wonder, like, how do you get that back? I really don't know. It's so weird.
I think the only way is to have dreams and goals and pursuits. If you don't have those things, I feel like if I didn't have dreams and pursuits and goals, I wouldn't be alive. Like that's the best way that I feel like I can maintain is sort of have these goals and these things that I am constantly pursuing and constantly going after. I feel like if you let your mind idle, it's a terrible thing. And I think that's what we are trying to fight during this whole, you know, pandemic, sort of an idle mind, fighting an idle mind. Were you going to say something, Jacob?
Yeah, it's just interesting because when I was at my most depressed, I found that actually my goals were what made me depressed because I wasn't achieving them essentially. And, you know, I guess I wanted to have, I mean, more or less a life like Bianca has, you know, a stable career, partner, and to have kids with them, you know, and, you know, I obviously my career is kind of over because of COVID, and I just got out of this very long-term relationship I was with, and like, it's horrible because I do miss her and stuff, and I do wish I had a better job, but like my stress level has gone down so much, and I've just been focusing not so much on long-term goals, but just on enjoying the moment, and that's really revolutionized things for me in terms of my.
I think you're absolutely right. When you say that you're absolutely right, because even though as a person who's constantly pursuing his dreams and goals, I do recognize that pursuit keeps me going, but the lack of attaining that also makes me feel like I'm not worth shit. You know, when I feel like I'm not at the level artistically where I should be or whatever, that also makes me feel like shit. But I feel like I get more joy out of the pursuit than I do the bad parts, if that makes sense. So, and I feel like maybe you were in, and not to, I don't know your relationship, but maybe you were, and well, knowing sometimes, not knowing Black women, I don't want to say that. But what I was going to say, I have to edit myself.
I'll fight you.
Yeah, careful, Clan.
I know.
What was you gonna say?
Nothing. This is what I wanted.
My ex was great, and I love Black women. I just wanted. I don't agree.
No. What I'm trying to say is that women in general, I don't want to put any color. When they're trying to build a family with you, they're going to put the pressure on you for you to be the most successful that they think that you can be. And they don't understand that that's a lot of pressure. And I don't know if that's what you were going through, but that's a lot of pressure, and it doesn't make you necessarily the most joyful of a human being if you constantly have that pressure to be great.
The pressure wasn't just coming from her, you know, like I was getting ready to put it bluntly, I was getting ready to have black kids. And like, I was like, we need to make some fucking money, you know, like I was like looking at school districts that didn't have achievement gaps. All those motherfuckers are in very expensive school districts. So I was like stressing. And it wasn't even the racial thing. Just you have to be ready to have kids, you know, and that was putting myself under a lot of stress.
You also have to be extra ready to have black kids, Jake. There's
Yeah,
a lot.
100%.
It's a lot more complicated when you have black kids than
100%, 100%. And
Huh?
I was to some extent cognizant of that. But in any case, just like the fact that I have no children in my horizons right now, it's like the stress level has gone from here to like what we eat tonight? We getting tacos tonight? Like, what's up? You know?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not the Marion type.
I thought I was, but yeah, apparently
I don't.
not.
Yeah, I think you just want your own space. You seem to be more. See, I would be. If I was in your situation, that would motivate the shit out of me to work toward, like, I don't know. Because I guess my overall goal is to eventually be married, and so that would, but I do understand I would have a lot of pressure on me, and I don't really do well with pressure, so I actually might be lying because I hate pressure. I hate when people, when women put a lot of pressure on an individual, and an individual, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
Hey, wait a minute. I feel pressure from my husband too, and not on purpose. He doesn't actually like say, "Hey, you gotta get it together," but just being a partner to somebody in general is a lot of pressure because you feel like we're a team now, and it's like playing basketball. Like, oh, like I fucked up that free throw. Like I fucked it up for the team.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what it is. It's like, you know, like if I, like right now, it's funny because he and I, my husband and I were just talking about how, you know, I need to not flip out about this whole school situation and not like, cause like I'm very different from him. Like I'm a very vocal person. You know what I mean? Like I don't care so much. I feel like more safe like speaking on my opinion, whereas he's kind of like chill. You don't need to make a public service announcement about the way you feel all the time. And he's kind of like, hey, like, you know, don't rock the boat so much, like keep it cool. And I'm like, this is my life we're talking about. I want to scream. I want to go to Gina Raimondo's house, knock on her door and tell her how I feel about going back to work and tell her all of the things that I've been thinking about. And he's like, chill. We need health insurance. And we need like, we need that second salary and everything. And it's like, you know, so if I do feel pressure, you know, the pressure goes both ways.
And that is a good point. A lot of families out there these days in 2020, the woman's making more money than the man. Like that is not uncommon in any demographic group these days. And there's nothing wrong with it, you know.
Yeah, I think if I would, I think rocking the boat is the only way to get change. I don't know. Like I would be like, rock more of the boat, babe. Capsize that bitch. Like
I agree, but also like, you know, sometimes like it will come at a cost, you know, like I've seen it before in like other jobs where like somebody has said something and maybe they won't get fired for that particular reason, but it's kind of like you know, like getting stopped by the cops. Like they smelled weed and they can't stop you for smelling weed, but they can stop you for your broken tail light and then get you for the weed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like you could be like, oh, you know what, Bianca, this student said that you swore in class, which normally probably wouldn't get me fired. It might get me a slap on the hand or something. But they could be like, oh, the student said you swore in class and you also went to Gina Raimondo's house and then we're firing you. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever.
I get it, but that fear is just, it's like how is anything going to get done if we just stay quiet while people take advantage of us? That's just I get that balance. It's a very thin, it's like a very thin line, but I would rather walk that line than just let people take advantage of me. I'm sorry. Like in my current job, or I guess I don't know if I'm working there because I'm on furlough. I don't know. Whatever. In the job that I was at, there was a situation like that where my supervisor, the way she talked to me was very disrespectful, and I didn't like it. So I called her out on it. I'm like, I really didn't like the way that you talked to me. And so with her, I thought it ended right there. I thought she was just like, okay, I totally understand. But then later on, she tried to get me on something that was mad bogus, like a simple like little mistake. She tried to like blow it out of proportion, like I did this like terrible thing. And so I do understand that sometimes speaking your mind, there's a consequence to that. But I also recognize that if I didn't say anything in that time, she would still think it's okay to talk to me any way she wants to. And so do I settle with her? Like, you know, it's just, yeah, I just,
right. And it always
sometimes
is a
you lose.
balance, but you got, yeah, like I just, you know, you got to think about what's worth it or not. Like, you know, I have a kid, he needs to be on my health insurance.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially during the Rona where so many people lost health insurance.
I know, it's crazy.
Really terrible. And like, I don't want to be in that position where, like, you know, God forbid something happening, I can't bring him to the doctors because I can't afford it or whatever. Like, that's tough, man. So it's like, for me, it's like, all right, it's not worth it. I'll, you know, at least let me wait until a final decision is made anyway before I start like getting in people's faces.
I hear you. That's why it's good to have that balance.
What did you say, Jake?
I said organize in secret. So, you know, when they do open up school, well, never mind. I'll talk to you off camera about it. But yeah, you never want to be the first one to say anything, right? Because it's probably going to be, that's my anyways.
I'm going to go along with whatever they tell me, and I will be buying a space suit and Ollie, because he's going to be in a little space suit in daycare. Oh, God. This is
there's something that you said earlier, Bianca, that, you know, got me thinking. I think this is why I'm pursuing the whole family thing. Because you said, like, at the end of a day, right? At the end of like a tough day, you go home to your son and your husband, and everything's okay in the world because you have that unconditional love of both these humans.
And my dog.
That
the dog gives the most
a major
love.
part to one's joy.
Get a dog. My dog, you know what? Ollie, sometimes he be coming home, I'm screaming. I mean, I come home and he's screaming.
You're screaming too, Bianca. Don't front.
But you know, sometimes, you know, my husband has a bad day, but I tell you, Ralph, my dog, never has a bad day. Like, every day is a great day. Every time I walk in the door, his tail's wagging. He freaking loves me no matter what, and it's awesome. He's like, oh
so
my God.
Dogs is what you're saying.
Thank you. Like.
So what you're saying is dogs are the key to happiness. True happiness. If you want true happiness, buy yourself a dog, because they'll always love you forever and ever, no matter what. You just have to leave for 5 minutes, and they're like, oh my God, that was 5 minutes. Oh my God, that was like 5 days.
Yeah, it literally wasn't a joke. I asked my midwife if I could have my dog in the delivery room, because she was
like, gross. No.
She's like, no, but she was like, oh, you know, bring things that make you happy, your favorite robe, your pillowcase, that whatever. And I was like, my dog. She's like, yeah, no. He's gonna want to bite the umbilical cord off, everything else. Oh, hell no.
Tasty. It's protein rich.
Okay. All right. That was the topic this week, you guys.
It's only my opinion. Coffee milk.